First and foremost, thank you for your faithfulness in serving God in this place. Whether or not I am the one that you call, I'll be praying for you forever, for your ministry, for your livelihood, and for your deep and continued faith in God. But I just want to leave you with the message that if God is saying, who shall we send? Who will go for us? I, Carla, and our girls have already said yes. With all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, in English, in Spanish, with our little dog Neo, and with all the possessions we have, which are not many, to come to be a part of this continuing wonderful ministry that is the Diocese of Los Angeles. And I hope that as you move forward, that you will always trust that with God, everything is possible. That with God, we can overcome even the hardest things that may come to us. That with God, we don't have to worry about declining numbers on Sunday morning, because there are 6 other days in the week in which we can incline the process of living into being church. I will continue to pray for God to bless you, for God to strengthen you, and for God to be your guide every single day of your life together and as individuals. Amen. Here.
When I stopped my opening statement, I was just starting to talk about Los Angeles. And when I was asked to consider this, I was asked by Latino people, by the way, to look at, was I called to Los Angeles? I said, what? From Paris to Los Angeles? But the more that I have come to know you and to talk to people in this diocese, the more I've come to realize that there's a lot that I can bring to you, and there's a lot that you can give to us. And in that doing, I see a way forward for both of us, the Whalens, and for this diocese. That we are going to be able to find the path that God is calling us to walk. And that path brings us together. And from there, we're going to walk through into a new and exciting era that I will just be able to push a little bit, and yet from afar I will see the success of what is waiting for you that God has laid up for you. I really, if you don't elect me, look, we've got 5 other terrific people to elect. One of us is meant to be your bishop. Do not look at your current crisis as anything less or other than pruning. God prunes us back so that we can grow better. This is what's happening now. Trust the Spirit. The Spirit is going to lead you forward. This is the creative center of the universe, Los Angeles, right? There are so many great and wonderful people who have yet to help us move this church forward, to bring hope. 19 million people here and to people around the world who look to Los Angeles and to this diocese for leadership.
John.
I'm going to begin in Jerusalem, but I'm going to stress that I do not disagree with what Anna and Rachel have said about how we as individuals and as institutions allocate the resources it takes to get people, often who are pretty wealthy people, all the way to Jerusalem and back. But I've been 5 times on pilgrimage. We're going again in January. And when you go to Jerusalem and see the place built over the place where both archaeologists and theologians and church historians believe the resurrection event occurred, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you are at first awestruck, but then you learn about the bickering that goes on among the denominations who are called to care for that place. And we sometimes make fun of them because they can argue for 2 years about how to renovate the restroom. But they argue because they take their faith seriously. because the universe changed in that place at a certain time, and they are its custodian. And so everything they do with deliberation, and sometimes with a degree of excess certitude. We are in conflict in part because we all take our faith seriously. We have prophetic passion. We have passion about the work we do. Sometimes we have a certain amount of self-righteous passion. But if there's one thing I've heard consistently from people who have suggested that I might be called to the episcopacy, is that I have certain modest gifts of friendliness and non-anxiousness and collegiality and empathy, which could be of use both in the early stages of the next episcopate and moving into the future. You've done the math. You're going to get at least 9 years, no matter whom you pick. You do not need an interim bishop. But my friends, we need some interim work in this diocese before we go ahead into the brave new world.
Anna.
I was trying to negotiate the alphabet there. The good thing about being an O is you're always in the middle, kind of. We're living in a time when people are more connected to each other than they have ever been in human history. So there ought to be ways, besides just like everyone having the bishop's cell phone number, to pull together 60 or so thousand people across 5.5 counties. And it shouldn't all involve sitting on the freeway on that way to Echo Park. I want to see us get creative. I want to see us get creative about how we take care of each other. I want to see us get creative about how we do more collaborative regional ministry and get rid of any last vestiges that we might all be competing with each other for market share. I want to see us use technology, and frankly, we're going to have some millennials help us with that. We ought to be able to talk to each other without all getting on the freeway, and we ought to do it more often. And we ought to do it around shared areas of ministry. Being part of a diocese should mean something other than writing a monthly check and gathering once a year for convention. And I think we have a chance to build that as we go. And we're going to have to build it while we heal these divisions. And we're going to have to build it while we figure out what to do with congregations that are coming unglued. And we're going to have to do it while we work our way through the mess that we're in. I think my greatest pastoral gift is that I enjoy being in the mess. I have a pretty high tolerance for chaos. And if you elect me to be your bishop, I will bring that joy to all of the messes, large and small, and we'll build it as we go.
Thank you.
And not so in the middle on this lineup. Give it up to, I said I'm an N, I'm not in the middle on this lineup. I keep being told to speak from my heart. I love this diocese. I say it all over the place because it shaped me and it formed me, and it's where I want to be, and it's where I will be, no matter who's elected. And as we walk around, I would say all of us, there's been a lot of categories that got thrown out. We need a short term, we need a long term, we need an older, we need a younger, we need an insider, we need an outsider, we need a head person, we need a heart person. Sound familiar? So what I want to offer in my closing remarks is that while we inherently label, that we really try in our best sense of seeking and serving Christ in one another and in all persons, that we try to put those aside and that we discern together where the Spirit is calling us. If that should be me or any one of us up here, well, it will be one of us up here, that we work together, that we understand that's our gospel mandate, that we find ways of doing that. And what do I love about being up here and John and I had a discussion long ago about identity politics. But I think that one of the gifts that I have is I'm a bridge builder. It's what Gen X understands ourselves to be. Because if you read anything about millennials, they'll tell us that we don't know anything about millennials, so I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I've read something about millennials, because there will be another millennial that will tell you that is wrong. But I understand the job of the next bishop is to honor the church that has been built, to honor what has been done, and to plow the field and get ready for what is coming after us. And I think that's what I have to offer. Thank you.
Paul. I began my introduction by talking about welcome and service. Those are two motivating factors in my whole life. I was thinking about Philippians 2 yesterday, where Jesus is described as the one who pours himself out. Though in the form of God, he did not count equality with God as something to be exploited, but emptied himself, which is not just something that Jesus does because he decides it will be a good thing. It's something he does as an example to us, to show us how to be as Jesus is in eternity. That is, to pour ourselves out, to empty ourselves, to strive to get away from ego so that we can actually become, as God calls us to be, her beloved children. All of us up here are wise people. All of us have experiences and intelligence around what it means to be the bishop, and none of us knows how to be the next bishop of Los Angeles. Because being a bishop is like stepping into a river. It is never the same thing twice. And every year that one of us is a bishop, it'll be a new day. But each one of us brings the kind of integrity, the kind of love, the kind of commitment and passion to this discernment that tells me that whoever is elected as bishop will have to learn the wisdom that each one of us brings, so that we can represent what the best is of this diocese, of you, and what comes from your life as you pour it out for the sake of those that God loves.